What makes something the best? Is it quantity? Is it quality? Let's talk about that and USC's newest commitment to its 2026 recruiting class, Jake Johnson.
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you are watching this show on YouTube, there are so many platforms out there. Pick one, download this podcast. It's always free. I'm always going to appreciate your support. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. So California's number one rated running back, Deshaun Rideau, he was number 20. He was the third commitment for USC last week. If you're an everydayer of the show, you know that I was speculating. I thought it was a real good possibility that USC was actually going to have a fourth commitment last week. I was told, I connected the dots that Jake Johnson was going to be the next guy in line to jump on the Trojan train. He was going to be the fourth guy. Never happened. He waited until Monday. So instead, USC finished the week with 3. Now they're off to a great start with another recruit. 6'3", 290 pounds, defensive lineman. His name is Jake Johnson. He's seen his stock rise a lot during the offseason. USC made their offer to him back mid-January, end of January. That's when Coach Eric Henderson went out to Texas to give Jake a visit. Since then, North Carolina, Texas Christian University, SMU, Wisconsin, all those guys were also chasing Jake. Well, what happened was Jake and his father took a visit to USC to a spring practice in March. Then he came out this weekend, like a week later. He brought his mom, he brought his brother along. Now the entire family is sold. Jake Johnson becomes USC's 21st commitment. Quote, the overall feel of the visit was fantastic. They did a great job showing how they run their operation and how they get after it every day with the same intentions and intensity. And the coaches have great chemistry together and make it a great work environment. The facilities were amazing, and they're building a brand new one that would be completed by the time I'm in college, end quote. One of my everydayers, and I'm sorry I didn't write down the name, asked if I can do a segment on an update on the new Bloom Football Performance Center. Yes, I will be happy to do that. I'll be out at practice later today, get some more pictures. We'll see what we can do for you. So USC recruited Jake as a defensive lineman. As a sophomore, he was playing offensive line for his high school team out there in Prosper, Texas. So USC is getting another big body. 6'3", 290 pounds. I've said that already. I'll tell you what, he hasn't even started his senior season yet in high school. By the time he gets to USC, he's probably going to be weighing at least 3 bills, maybe more. And then he'll add some more weight once Benny Wiley gets his hands on him. He finished his junior year with 50 tackles, 11 TFLs, 9 sacks, 16 quarterback pressures. Pretty good, right? When you watch him, there's still some refinement. He can still learn some more. I'm not going to say he's raw, but he's still learning the game, at least that side of the ball. But he's got really heavy hands. When he latches onto you, imagine having an anvil hitting you. He just immediately pushes you backwards. He's really quick off the snap. It's almost like he's timing it. He's got one of those motors that doesn't stop, which you love that as a defensive line coach. I would say he's definitely, looking at his size, he's going to be a 3 technique. But we know that Coach Antonlynn loves his guys up front to be versatile. So whether he stays inside, whether they can slide him out to the outside in certain situations, we'll find out. But definitely, based on his size, he's going to be an interior defensive lineman. I don't think they're going to ask him to drop weight. Like I said, he doesn't have a ton of moves right now. He's more of a bull rush guy, but he's super strong. I like to call guys like that farm strong. You look at him, all right, well, he doesn't really look like he doesn't look like Gus Cordova right now, the guy who just looks chiseled, no body fat. But guys who work on a farm, and he doesn't, but guys who work on a farm, they're strong. They have endurance, they have stamina. They can do whatever's asked of them. So USC's getting a really good guy with Jake Johnson. He's joining the defensive line class right now. You've got Samodi Kadonga. You have Jamian Winfield from Texas. He's like a top 10 player in the country. USC's got Tom Tapui. You've got Braden Jones. You've got Andrew Williams and then Malik Brooks. So, yeah, they're stacking bodies right now. The body count is getting up there. And it's not just quantity, it's quality. Here's something else. Like I said, this week, that's the first commitment. I knew Jake Johnson was coming. Wondering if it was going to happen last week. He decided he'd be the first in line this week on Monday. He's not going to be the last one. He probably has a practice partner coming in this week. If you're watching this episode of Locked On USC Tuesday, today's Tuesday. Maybe it's today, maybe it's tomorrow. Offensive tackle from Folsom, California, Vlad Diakonov. He's getting ready to pop. We'll see what happens when it happens, but it's going to happen. On Monday, I posted a message from my YouTube channel, and I posted it on X as well. Will USC finish with 1, 2, 3 or more commitments this week? I think 2 is the under. I think 3 is a definite possibility. Again, let's find out. Let's get number 2 on the books. Assuming Vlad the Impaler is the next in line, a couple other guys out there. Maybe Sean Scott from Mater Dei. I know some programs are recruiting him as an edge player. USC wants him as an inside linebacker. So if he's good with that, he's coming to USC. Seen some crystal balls there. So he might be open to the prospect of playing inside linebacker. And then one other recruiting note. This is just kind of like, oh, really? Did somebody let the cat out of the bag? Kenya Pepe, Kobe Pepe's big little brother. He had just earned his 5th star from the different recruiting platforms. USC running back Sean Alston coming into the class of 2026. He recognized it, and he sent out a little tweet to Keeney. Said, hey, congratulations, fam. We'll see what happens there. I know USC feels really good. They're in a good place with Pepe. He would be one of those elite commitments. If you're into the 5-star ranking guys, there you go. You just got one. All right, so we're talking about recruiting. And I asked the question at the top of the show about body count, quality, quantity. What makes something the best? Let's talk about that in the next segment. There is nothing like the energy of a live game. I don't care whether you're at a Major League Baseball game, if you're going to NBA or the NHL playoffs, nothing matches being there. Game time makes scoring last-minute tickets easier than ever. And you know what? Prices actually drop as you get closer to the event. And with their all-in pricing, you see the total cost up front, so there's no surprises at checkout. Here's why I love using Game Time. Priority last-minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for any sport, concert, comedy theater, whatever. If you want to go last second, you can get up like 60% off. You can grab last-minute seats for LA Kings games. If you want to go to the NBA playoffs, jump in there as well. Save big with their zone deals. And you also get peace of mind. With seat views before you buy, there's no surprise fees, lowest price guarantee. You can book and leave with total confidence. I've always liked how easy the Game Time app is, how easy it is to use as well. And I told you about their super great deals. If you find something lower in your section and row for less, Game Time guarantees you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. It's all about the body count, right? What the kids are talking about. What's your body count? So is it all about the number, or is it about the quality of bodies? USC is going for its biggest high school recruiting class in the history of USC football. Chad Bowden has said it on more than one occasion. I think the number you're looking at perhaps as many as 35. That's a big number. It's a really big number when you understand that that's just high school. These last few years, he'd bring in, 20, 22 guys out of high school, another 10 or so, transfer portal guys. That's just high school numbers they're talking about right there. So right now, USC is at 21 with Jake Johnson's commitment. And like I said, there's going to be at least one more this week, maybe two. But does having a 35-member class that's ranked number one, by the way, assuming it holds on to that ranking, and let's just say it ends up top 5. All right. You know how I feel about that. It's very subjective. If you have a top 5 class, you've got good players. Any way you want to shake a stick at it. But does having a 35-number class, does that make it better than any past classes at USC that had, remember, you're dealing with cap numbers. It was up until recently, it's been 85 scholarships. That was the number you had to stay at. You couldn't go above that. Well, looks like we're going to 105. But I suppose it's possible that next year's incoming class with some of the best talent out there will win multiple national championships and Heisman Awards. But to say definitively that this is the best class in the history of USC, I think that's going to be a stretch. We don't know that until 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. So I thought, let me go take a look at some of those classes that had, where the 85-man roster was the ceiling. And I thought about what were some of the great classes during that dynastic run that USC had under Pete Carroll. So I went back to look at the class of 2003. Eric Wright, Lendale White, T2, Terrell Thomas, some dude named Reggie Bush, Fili Moala, Ryan Khalil, Steve Smith, Lawrence Jackson, Sam Baker. There were more than that, but those were just the NFL guys. And I probably missed one or two. Class of 2004, Fred Davis, Chyla Rashall, Josh Pinker, Deuce Latui, Clayton Matthews, Keith Rivers, Jeff Byers, Dwayne Jarrett. 2005, Patrick Turner, Mark Sanchez, Luther Brown, Brian Cushing, April Spicer, Will Harris, Kevin Thomas, Kyle Moore, Kerry Harris, Kaluka Mayava, Evan Ellison. Excuse me, I'm having a little sinus issue here today. What about 2006? I mean, these were some really loaded classes. Number one guys. Vidal Hazelton, Taylor Mays, Stephon Johnson, Alan Bradford, CJ Gable, David Osbury, Sharice Wright, Stanley Havili. So those are just some of the classes I went through. 2026 is going to be a really good class. Let's not try and poo-poo it. It's going to be a really good class, potentially a great class, especially if some more of those elite guys start stacking up. Guys like Kini Pepe, with 30 to 35 guys, obviously there's going to be more chances for hits, for home runs, but there's also going to be more chances for misses. So that's something we have to keep track of as well. I mean, let's look at USC's 2023 recruiting class. It had 22 high school commits. It's a good number, right? It was the recruiting class right after USC won 11 games, a Heisman Trophy award. So you had 22 high school commitments. These guys are no longer with the program. Not even 2 years later. Zachariah Branch, Deuce Robinson, Malachi Nelson, Tackett Curtis, Quentin Joyner, Malachi Crawford, Amarian Peterson, David DJ Peavy, Sam Green, Amos Talalele, Kate Eldridge, Dejon Lafitte, Elijah Hughes. That's more than half that class. Just the high school guys. They also added 14 transfers. So you had 36 guys in total in 2023. And again, I want to emphasize, that was USC coming off an 11-win season with Caleb Williams winning USC's 8th Heisman Award. Those should have been the guys that are all bought in, excited, ready to go. So again, let's see how this plays out. I'm just as excited as everybody else, but talking about this class like it's going out of style. But let's keep it fair and balanced. Let's look at both sides of the issue. Yeah, you want to keep stacking bodies. You want to have a big body count when you're talking football and recruiting. Definitely. But when you're talking about everyday life, and if we're talking about it in the terms that body count is talked about, it's always about quality. You can have as many friends as you want, but it's those ones that you want to be around. The quality people. Those are the ones you want to hang out with. So yeah, it's great that USC has got the #1 class. They got they're getting the top talent in the state of California. They're cherry picking from across the country. It's the way it used to be. But let's not get ahead of ourselves and just all of a sudden say, this is going to be the greatest class since sliced bread. Excuse me. That 2023 class, very recent, was supposed to be that class. But there's so much more involved now with NIL and playing time and hurt feelings. And again, you can't have too many bodies, especially at a certain, with certain position groups, because then it gets a little crowded. That's why I think USC's wide receiver room is in better shape with less numbers. Not saying that Zachariah and Deuce aren't going to live up to their, high school ranking. They still have time. But just because you're a 5-star coming out of high school doesn't mean you're a 5-star elite player in college. It's just how it is. And you can say, well, there's more hits than misses. Well, you don't have as many of those as well. Again, I am not a fan of the star system. Show me the program that's recruiting you. I'll tell you if you got potential. Because that's really what this is all about. So when you're recruiting for potential, you're recruiting as many bodies as possible, or you're recruiting as much quality as possible. I guess in USC's case, you're trying to do both, and you're trying to minimize the misses. All right, we got one more segment to go. So Trojans Live, radio show, USC hosts it every Monday. Jordan Moore is the moderator. You have Sean Cody, you have Cody Kessler, and then they usually have some guests. Today, it was Coach Rob Ryan. They also had wide receiver Prince Strawn. I want to focus on Coach Rob for this segment. USC got a really good coach, by the way. What I you see me wear this hat all the time. Coach Rob, he actually wears my favorite USC hat of all time. It's the gold one with the Cardinal SC, the interlocking SC logo and Cardinal. He wears that hat all the time. That's my favorite hat. Then this one. The thing I love about Coach Rob is he is so charismatic. I mean, just so laid back, so chill. He reminds me of just that fat, retired surf bum. You just you see him laying on the beach. He's got a Corona in one hand, big smile on his face, just checking out the scenes. That's Coach Rob Ryan. He's that uncle that everybody wants. That when he comes over and when your parents aren't looking, he's going to hand you a beer and say, "Here, get out of here, leave me alone." That's Coach Rob Ryan. He was on the show. He was asked, how it feels to be back coaching in college. It was, it's been 25 years since the last time he coached in college. And he said, it's been great. He's having a really good time. Bottom line, football is football. In other words, he said, not that much has changed. Coach Rob Ryan has seen everything that could possibly happen on a football field, whether it's in the NFL or if it's in college. He's seen it all. He did his typical coach speak. We're coming along. Everything's going to be fun. We're having a great time, yada, yada, yada. Practice is great. Defense is doing what it needs to do. And then all of a sudden he decided to slip this in there. Quote, by the way, Lincoln Riley's offense is a bear. We need an extra, and the way he was describing it's like, we need an extra eye, and he was pointing to the middle of his head, like a cyclops eye, for the linebackers. And then he looked at Sean Cody, and he says, you'll like that the guys are coming downhill, Sean. They're splattering people. And eventually, and then he looked at Cody Kessler, we'll be knocking quarterbacks out. I'm not sure what he meant by nailing, but he's going to be knocking his linebacker group, the defense in general, is going to be knocking quarterbacks out. And anytime you use the word splattering, you got my attention. He was asked specifically about his group of linebackers. He said, obviously, the young guys like Desmond Stevens, Jaden Walker, great young talent. He's really excited about coaching those guys up. In fact, he said, they're good. I want to make them better. He was asked about, Eric Gentry with regards to his unique skill set. And it's hard to compare Gentry to anyone else just because of, his body style. Long, lean. He's got, those condor-like arms. He's got deceptive speed. He closes that space with, for every one step, he's taking 2 steps because of that stride. So they asked me, said, who would you compare him to? And Coach Ryan's like, I don't know, maybe Malcolm Jenkins. He can play everywhere, made a bunch of Pro Bowls. And, he says, and he repeated this when he said during his introduction, Eric makes the unusual usual. It just comes natural for him. It's because you can do so much with him, because of that unique skill set, the way his body is. Coach Ryan also said he enjoys recruiting. He actually thinks he's going to be good at it. I know there was a little bit of concern there because he's been away from the game so long. Does he want to deal with today's, youth? Well, when he first arrived at USC, he basically had to jump on an airplane with Coach Henney and Doug Belk, which, by the way, he calls Doug Belk the general. General Belk. And Coach Ryan's message was simple. He said, look, this is a people business. It's a genuine people business. Be genuine. Be yourself, and you'll be successful. In other words, he said, don't fake it. Just be who you are. Then he said, just watch. And it was almost like he was trying to sell himself because it felt like he got serious for like 20 seconds. You just watch. I'll be successful doing this. I know I can do it because I love the players. I love everything about football, the people. I'm looking forward to it. You watch. I'll be good at this. I thought, all right, you go, Coach Ryan. You sell yourself. When Cody Kessler asked him what it takes to win a championship, whether it's at the NFL level or in college, I loved his answer. Quote, obviously it's players over scheme. I know that, I know what works is smart, tough, competitive, selfless, hardworking, and football is important. It's got to mean something. That's all you have in the NFL. That's all who's there. And that will work at this level. I came in here when it's getting hot. I'm talking about how, USC's momentum right now. It's going to be awesome. Here's my biggest takeaway after listening to Coach Rob. When you get past his storytelling, the fun anecdotes, Coach Rob Ryan is about as down to earth, as humble as possible. And he's a huge family guy. Talked about his dad, his brothers, his brother, who, he rest in peace, who was a lawyer. People think they're just this dumb jock football family. They're actually pretty smart. Got a brother who's a lawyer. He and his twin. You don't last this long in the NFL if you don't know what you're doing. And he even said, look, I got the job through nepotism. That's what got me in the door. But I got to learn from my dad. And Buddy Ryan is one of the greatest defensive minds ever. What Coach Rob wants to do now is to do what he was able to do. He learned from his father. Now he's got an opportunity to kind of pass on that knowledge to his son, Matt, who is also part of USC staff. They're coaching together. Passing that baton along. This kind of goes to what I was talking about in the last episode of Locked on USC. How USC does things, it matters. It's that whole Trojan family thing. Rob Ryan was meant to be a Trojan because it's all about family for him. All right. I want to thank you for making Locked on USC your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked on NFL Draft with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez. As your favorite collegiate players get ready for the next level, get the latest draft rankings, rumors, and news every day. Find Locked on NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm going to be back with another episode of Locked on USC tomorrow. I'll be at practice, so I'll have a practice report for you. Maybe we'll have another commitment. And if we do, we'll be talking about that as well. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.